we might trade today. Obviously, you can tell that I actually am in a trade at the moment. Not sure how it's going to play out. So far, it's actually green. I'm long on the ES here, just in the short, targeting basically the midpoint of that high and that low. But at any rate, let's kind of get a start. Let's take a look. As Signet mentioned this morning, we really don't have a lot of major market. We don't have any big reports or anything like that happening today. We do have a lot of auctions that are going to be starting probably around 11:30, and there's a very good chance that these will be, if there is to be a big market move today, it will probably happen during one of these Treasury markets here. We do have some Fed speak starting at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard. So, but we don't have a PPI, a CPI, a PCE, blah, blah, blah kind of thing going on today. So what does that tell us for the morning? Well, that tells us that it's probably going to be, it could just be a sideways chop day. That's very possible. When we look at what's on the calendar for tomorrow, the 8th, again, we don't have a lot of, we've just got this one trade imbalance thing at 8:30, and crude oils, FOMC minutes, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be Thursday when all the big reports hit. What can we expect between now and Thursday? Or Wednesday, whatever, Thursday I think it is we can expect, for the most, unless a news algo hits, it's mostly going to be, could be a slow grind range up or down, slow grind up or down. It could also just be a lot of sideways chop. Now, the good and the bad to sideways chop, sometimes the chop does have highs and lows wide enough to trade, that you don't necessarily have to be a scalper, that you can get if you move down to a lower time frame. But at this point, what are we expecting is just a lot of kind of stay in the range between the highs and the lows. We do have, if we look at, let me pop over to here. If we look at last week's, let me get rid of that there. This is today, and you can see we did take out Friday's high, but if we look at the range, so last Monday was the 30th. So if we go back to the 30th here, and I throw on a Fibonacci, our highest point last week was here, our lowest point was here. You can kind of see that we did touch the midpoint right here of last week, but there's a very, very good chance that we're just going to stay in this range until we get to Thursday. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind, that we kind of expect we're going to stay in here until we get some news that actually moves us over last week's range. Just no real reason to move out anywhere else at this time. So let's go over and take a look, though. What can we find today? And for today, we see that we'll start over here at crude. ADRs are wider. The pivot points are tighter. Let's take a look at what happened here. Here is your Asian session. Started here, 8 p.m. Eastern, and took out the high. So after the Asian session closed at 2 p.m., you can see we just stayed It was just a very slow grind. Then when we got into the London session, we went high. We took out a pivot point support, resistance, half of the ADR. Then we went on up, got up to very close to this second support resistance line and almost a full ADR. If we look at from here to here, just the intraday, what's happened so far, we kind of get the picture here that right now we're coming back to this 50% level, and then it's going to be a decision point. So IV is a little bit lower right now. We are on the hourly, but the pivot points are tighter, which means it's easier to hit them and move on. We've already moved, though, our full ADR of the day, 116%. We don't really usually expect to break more than 100%, obviously, by much anyway. 116 is not that big a deal. But at this point here, we've seen a big liquidity grab over Friday. So there's a very good chance we're just going to come right back into here. Could we come back? The pivot point is still a very valid target. So I would say right now in the short term, if I were targeting anything to the south, it would be the pivot point. Again, I'm looking at things on the hourly. Obviously, you can see I've got a trade going on here. Let me get this fib out of the way. ADRs are tighter. Pivot points are wider. We did hit them anyway, and as Signet says, if that's this dashed line right here, so we did hit the half way down on the pivot of the ADR. Remember that the ADR we plot from the open, half of it above, half of it below. When again we look at, if we want to look at, well, what's a good target? Or where are we? Well, we've got a low back here. We've got a high up here. So now granted, this is spanning several days. But if we look at that, we came right back to that 50% level. And so now we kind of want to step back and say, well, let's look at the bigger trend to give an idea of, well, what else is it, could it do? And let's see, what are we seeing here? We were bullish, had a pullback. Notice the lower highs, lower high, lower lows. We did not make a lower low here. In fact, we've got a series of higher lows. So we are kind of going into a pennant that we could, but let's just see how this works out. Let's just go from this candle to this candle, and then let's zoom in to see if we can get a better idea of what this trend looks like. Really, that's very interesting. We notice very few closes. I'm going to drop this here. Notice very few closes on this line did go back into this line, so I like this line. A lot of times we look for all these wicks and stuff, but when we don't see that, then we start looking at the bodies. And I do notice that the bodies are kind of respecting this trend line here. Wick respected it here. So as we start to move in, we can kind of see that these lines are coming together. And so we are now looking for some kind of a break of these trend lines. The problem, of course, being is we don't know that it'll happen today. So right now in the short term, if we just look at Friday's action, we had a low down here, we had a high up here, we did take out that high, We have started a roll back into the middle. We're back to the pivot point. So at this point, I would say we'll take out, there's probably a small amount of fair value gap right here. And then again, unless news is really going to do something with us, I would expect we may go for this here. That's what I'm targeting right now in my current trade. And it may get there, it may not. But, that's something that we can look at on the volume profiles and just see how strong that target is up there. So at this point, but if we said we have a intraday, if we have a high, we have a low, if we get a move 50% back in, which puts us about right in here, then we would expect a rollover back to the south. So if we opted to do a Fibonacci here, if this is the bottom for the moment and this is the top for the moment, we're looking for 57.85 to be our north side target. And from there, it'll make a decision of whether it's going north or south. And, we'll just have to see. Again, I really am expecting a chop week until we get to the reports. We'll just have to see. Let's get over here to looking at gold. Gold, as you can see, complete rollover. Now, what happened here? Well, let's look at Friday. If we go to here, that's the low of Friday. Here's the high. So we had a low. We had a high. We came back down into 50%. In fact, we came all the way back. We did a full pullback 75. Moved back up, and normally if this were an ICT setup, we'd say low, high, 50%, roll back north. Well, obviously this failed as an ICT, except for this little zone right here. It did go back up, but then pretty substantial drop there, 16 points. Right here, I would say that at this point, if we continue headed south, we're looking to take this out here at 26.59-ish, and then this target down here at 26.51. We might react with the ADR. We see that it is in a squeeze on the 60 minutes, but here's the thing. Remember that all these kind of studies are historical. I would say that this candle right here broke the squeeze, but the indicators have not caught up with it yet. So, it was probably very valid up through here. And then after you get a couple candles, then we will see that, if a couple candles continue moving with some width to them, then we would actually see that the squeeze indicator will go away. So I believe the squeeze has actually fired. It did go as anticipated. It did fire to the south side, kind of thing. Now, will it continue? Basically, this which way it's going to fire is based on moving averages and where it is in relation. So in other words, at the time when this 60-minute squeeze thing was set up, the price was below all the major moving averages, which we kind of see that makes sense right here in this drop. So the moving averages would still been overhead. So this would have said, if it fires, it's going red. We had a pullback, it fires, it goes south. Okay. So the squeeze actually has fired. How far will it go? Again, I would probably pick down here, ultimately 26.52-ish for your major target. Not saying that it will, but that would make the most sense to me. All right, so let's remove this, and let's go back, and let's talk about, and we're going to come back to this in a minute, about the top chart here. Let's talk about the SPY trade and the SPY gap. The SPY closed right here at We're going to call that 573. We're just going to round it off, 573. Currently, we're over here at 571. So, that's a $2 spread on the SPY. If we go look at that, if we look at by weekday, start with, we're in a gap down situation. We have, according to Edgeful, a 100% chance today. And one of the things you'll notice is the chances of gap fills is higher on the Monday and then gets weaker as the week progresses. So we see, pretty much they're calling for 100% fill. If we go by size, we had about a $2 spread, which here, $2 spread in a gap down situation, they're calling for an 87%. So, we can transpose that to, let's just maximize this. Remember, the SPY closes at 4, so if I did a horizontal line here, wait, where's there? That would put us right there at 5,800. So you could take an MES or an ES option long from the current price of 57.80 up to 5,800. That's only 20 points. That would be 4 brackets. If you are interested in doing that, you could certainly look into that. And that would be the equivalent on the ES of the SPY. Again, statistics are all, I don't care that the statistics say 100%. They can still fail. They're just saying historically they have always filled it. That does not mean that it will today. So always realize, I don't care that a statistic says 100%. It could still fail. Nonetheless, Edgeful's been a very good tool as far as predicting stuff in that regard there. So I might actually look at taking a trade like that, pop up just out of curiosity. Let's just kind of see what a trade on the MES would cost. What was our target number again? I've already forgotten. Oh yeah, 5,800. Yeah. Let's say we looked at a 0-day call, 5,800 times 50. That would be about 260. Well, let's just call it $6 times 5. So it'd be about a $300 trade. To take it on the ES, you'd be risking upwards to $300 if you're doing a 0-day. So about $300 on the ES, $30 on the MES if you wanted to try that trade long. And just to see. I'm not telling you to take it. I'm just saying the odds are saying that it should happen. And we say, well, what would happen? Well, we're at, let's call it $6 right now. If it in fact gets there, it's going to be closer to 14, so it looks like it potentially could double between now and then. Of course, you've got to remember a 0-day, a 0 DTE, IV crush, theta crush is moving into overdrive and is going to wipe your option out very quickly. If you wanted to buy a little bit of time, you could certainly add a day. That certainly obviously jacks the price up rather substantially because we went from around $6 to a little over, call that $14 times 5. So around $6.50, something like that. But but that buys you more time, and if it fails, you're not going to lose all of that necessarily. You can get out because you'll still have value in the option. It's just the theta won't destroy it as fast. Anyway, let's get back over to our charts. Okay. So there was the SPY trade, and what am I? Oh, yeah. I maximized this. So what are we thinking about trading today? I don't like this big move in gold right now. What follows big moves often is consolidation. You can definitely maybe look for a half-back trade here. See with this big candle here, we had a big wick down, we had a half-back, then we actually came back and took it out to the north. But a lot of times, like we'll take a look at the ES right here. Let's just zoom into that. Just looking at this one candle right here puts our halfback around 57.85. So we say, well, that's 7 points. That's not bad. That's not bad at all, and we could certainly look at that. But you notice here the candle pattern. Normally, that would be the candle that immediately follows it. And we can see this candle did get very close to halfback, and then it broke down. But so the ES, let's just kind of take a look at what are we thinking for a good trade today. I would probably look. I would look for crude to come right back down. Who's got the most money in the trade? I think there's a very good chance that crude's coming back down to that pivot point at 74.60-ish. That would be a very, very good trade. Let's take a look at how that might map out. I'm going to bring crude in here, and then I'm going to wipe this off. Let's clear the drawing set and let me explain where we are. All right, so here we are. This is crude where it stands today. This is Friday's point of control. So let's put us a horizontal line right there at 74.52. Here is Thursday's point of control, 72.31. Here is the 10-day, the big long one, 70.95. And I always make this one the fattest line because that's over the last 10 days, that is the biggest magnet. So we do see that all our volume levels are pulling us to the downside. Okay. As far as our volume, we did already, though, run the high. We took out Friday's high. So that is a liquidity grab at this point until this candle closes at the end of today. For right now, we just call it a liquidity grab. We can see that we took it and we rolled back into the inside. If we come down and we go to the 30-minute chart, we can see that our point of control for right now is 76.12-ish. That's what it is right now. Now that's a magnet, so we've got magnets below us, we've got magnets above us. Let's take a closer look then. Let me change you to a dashed line because you're intraday. All right. We got a fair value gap, big fair value gap right here. There's a beautiful target to the south, right there. There is your target zone. So right now I would expect crude to come back down and go for this volume profile line. If we just simply look at what's happened overnight, we've got this low, we've got this high. Here's our 50% line. We are still moving towards it, so we're still looking at a short, possibly towards that. Then to continue into this fair value gap and I would probably say that volume profile line would be the daily target. So let's go over to Edgeville and see what it tells us about crude today. So let's get over to the futures. Let's get to crude. Let's look at, so we've already, looked at a lot of the main strategy set up here. Opening market 30 minutes from now. What do we see typically? And we're going to go with the morning session, the regular trading hours. And I want to see what happens based on the last 6 months breakouts. That's a breakout to the north, 38%, 35%. Let's see. Now, wait a minute. What? We're doing the orb on the 30-minute. Let's come down to the 15. I was actually trained to look at the 15. So the 15 leans towards a double break. So that would be 9:30 to 9:45 Eastern. We mark the highest high, the lowest low during that first 15 minutes. And then we say throughout the day, what do we expect? We expect a double breakout, more than likely, 44%. If we extend it to the 30-minute, though, we definitely see, this is interesting. So this tells us that from roughly 9:45 to 10 a.m. that it may break outside of the 15-minute orb, and then it'll choose a direction by 10 o'clock. The odds say that more than likely it's going to choose a direction at 10 o'clock and go that way. Now remember, it can still go back into the orb. They're just saying that there's a 38% chance that it'll break up, 35% break down. So that's 73% saying that it will not take out the other side of the orb. So, remember, let's say, just throwing some numbers here, let's say one side of the orb is 10, the other side is 5 on the 15-minute, and let's say that it says, so let's say it breaks south and it goes down to 4. It can still go back inside the orb. They're just saying if it's only going to be a breakdown, it will not go back to 10 on the very top. Or let's just kind of use this blue bar right here. Let's say that this was the orb high, this was the orb low. Price comes in, choppity, choppity, chop, breaks down, or excuse me, this is a breakout. So let's just say it breaks out and it goes up to here. It can still come back inside this orb. They're just saying it won't take out the high and then take out the low of the orb. So we just kind of got to keep that in mind. A lot of people think that it won't come back inside the orb. That's not what it says at all. Let's compare and take a look at the market session correlation. Is there any correlation with the Tokyo and the New York session? Not really. Right now we are, well, wait a minute. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Nothing strong here on the Tokyo correlation. London, that's what I want right here. Though, if crude is long, we're basically saying there's a 60, near 70% chance. So what was crude? Let's go back and look at that again. Was it long or short compared to the London session? Well, London started at 2, and it's still running. So we're at the moment we are green on the London session. Well, if we're green on the London session, they're saying that the New York session has if London finishes green, we have a near 70% chance that crude will also finish green from its open. So again, now remember though, just as I said, there's a 67% chance that it will finish green. There's a 33% chance that that could fail. So we do have some nice little stats to see here as we look at the orb and we look at all that. I still believe, though, that we're going to come back down into here. I still like this volume profile for a short-term target, but and we won't know the London close, obviously, until later. So it's very possible that the London close could actually be below its open at that time. But, it's possible, because London close would be, that would be about, that's where it opened. So we'll just have to see what happens there. But I do like crude short. We've got a fair value gap that we're filling or forming maybe right here. I think I would not be surprised to see us roll over, come into this fair value gap, tag that volume profile. So, at any rate, so we've got a SPY trade, we've got a crude trade. Let's see, is there anything else to talk about here on the charts this morning? Overall, the general market trend, so here we've got the ES, the NQ, the Russell, the VIX, the dollar, and all the bonds. We take a look at where we are based on Friday's close. Clearly, we're below that, Friday's close, but we have not the markets overall. And remember, this is an amalgamation. It's the adding and subtracting of all these different markets to give us a total market overview of what is the general absolute consensus of things. So bonds and VIX and dollar oftentimes move opposed to the ES and the NQ. Russell's kind of a bit of a wild card. So as we use our formulas here to weight each one of them, some are added, some are subtracted, there to kind of give us an idea. We kind of get an idea that we started off high, we came back low. The DeMark sequence kind of gives us an idea that we're still, maybe going to head back higher. So I think overall there's a very good chance that, notice we came right to the pivot point, we went below it, we came right back to the pivot point, and I think, as we talked about earlier, we're going to be in a lot of chop this week until we get to Thursday. And so, we just have to see what ultimately happens with things there. And it looks like I got stopped out on my trade. I was in profit, so that's okay. Any rate, has anybody got any questions before I wrap up here? Kevin's getting ready to jump in here, so I'm getting ready to yield to him. And if not, of course, you're always welcome. Remember, like I said, we used a lot of statistics from Edgeville. We are not affiliated with them other than they gave us a comp account, a complimentary account to use and to talk about on the Bullish Bears Network here. But if you like statistics and stuff like that, you can always go over there and check them out, see if that's something that you may like. All right, that being the case, this is Marziti. I am signing out. I'm yielding to Kevin so that he can do his morning stream. And if you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to direct message me, post something in the chat. If you do post something in the chat, remember to please @Marziti so that I see it. And beyond that, I hope you guys have a good trading day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.